Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Rusty Nelson down here in the Villages, Florida, a 55 and over retirement community, and we have got a lot to talk about today. Talk about Bob and Liz, El Niño, Super El Niño, the weather, 80-year-old black vet that got attacked here or hit and assaulted in the Villages, and I was asked to comment on that. Something about my past careers in flying, that type of thing, and get into some of your comments and questions. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey everybody, that's right. I am down here in the Villages, Florida, 55 and over, premier retirement community. Got about 160,000 people live here and 70-some thousand golf carts, all kinds of crazy stuff. If you've never been here, you got to come on down here and check it out. And we have a lot of fun down here. And one of those things that, well, let me jump back for a second here. Thank you so much. I'm going to talk about people commenting and stuff like that because I just want to thank you guys for commenting. I love to hear where you're coming from, and as you'll see in some of these things, people contribute to it, so it kind of becomes its own community and helps out a lot. And also, I usually put a share link on there, so if you want to share these around, please do. I really appreciate it. It helps out a lot. But most of all, please subscribe and like. Just hit the like button anyway. That helps out a lot. That interaction helps the channel out and makes it a lot easier to do these things and get them out. But this was never, you know, some people say, oh, you're making a ton of money on this thing. And I go, no, I'm not. I do this. This is purely for fun. I enjoy it. I used to work in the entertainment business a while ago. In fact, somebody asked a question here about my flying job, and I'm going to post something here towards the end. Actually, a recap of how I got to the Villages, actually, and talking about that. I do these restaurant reviews. I should say we do these restaurant reviews, me, Bob, and Liz. And somebody asked me the other day, you know, something about how did you become friends or something like that. And in the early days when I first started these, they volunteered in the purchase of their home to come on and do an interview with me. And I remember we went back and sat on the back of a porch. It was kind of crude, but a lot of fun. And they were such nice people. And then, you know, we communicated a little bit. And when I bought my house, that was probably August when I closed. I think they closed in September of 21 or so. All of a sudden I'm over at my house, and I'm just going to show you the video clip, but this is really, I think, when our friendship kind of started. Check out this. Oh, wait. How this actually got started was the comments and stuff that you folks read. Here's one right here from Fred. It says, hi, Rusty. As always, thank you for your episodes with Bob and Liz. They're always much fun to watch. Please let them know how much they are appreciated, and thank them for allowing us to invade their multiple dinners. I guess Bob and Liz say that some people stop them around the Villages. Plus, you guys are absolutely on a roll with a comedy during the session. Great one. Going to the 7-Eleven. What time did happy hour end? Going to need a bigger glass. Just to mention a few. Always thank you. I hope you continue to be well. Yeah, we did a restaurant review in Mount Dora. Here, let me read one more here from Woody. Hi, Rusty. First time commenter, long time subscriber here. I really enjoy the interaction between you, Bob, and Liz on your restaurant adventures. We enjoy it too, Woody, a whole lot. They are wonderful. You guys look so happy. Keep them coming. You're doing a great job. Well, thanks a lot. There's other comments where people mentioned that, especially on this last one. We really did have fun. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. But here is a way back clip of I'm sitting there in my house doing nothing, and you're going to see I really had nothing in my house. And all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door, and these people show up. So you guys might remember from another video, Bob and Liz, whose house is out that way. I can see right in the window. They close in a month.
In a month, September 2nd.
In a month. And they were so kind as you can see, I have nothing in here but a TV. A housewarming gift. Say hi.
Hi.
A lot of people know you out there. So anyway, I can't wait to see their house gets done, and I can't wait to get someplace to sit with a TV. And I'm gonna munch on some of this stuff. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
That wasn't our first video together. Actually, our first video together was the one where I did the interview with him. And then this one popped up on one of them. I don't know where it was, but I managed to go back and grab it. And then right after that, they closed on their house, and I was actually there when they pulled up to their house to close on it. So it's been a long friendship, and I cherish that friendship a bunch. If you do notice, I give Bob a hard time about the driving. Now, I don't know how that came about. I think it was because in the beginning, not because of his driving, but because of he never had the GPS on. And I used to think I'm one of these people that uses the GPS all the time. And he wasn't using it in the beginning. And so I would give him a hard time about it. Then it just went, actually, don't tell anybody, but he's a really good driver, or I wouldn't be sitting in the back of that car all the time. Trust me. I have no qualms about his driving, and he's probably one of the few people that I don't. So anyway, I really appreciate you guys jumping in and commenting on those restaurant reviews. I'll put the link to the last one we did down below because it's really fun to watch. And I'll try to put a playlist together of all the restaurant reviews. There's some of them are kind of funny to watch, but we got more coming. So stay tuned. We'll have fun with those. All right, on to the next subject. Next section is about weather and hurricanes. Please make sure you're subscribed. I've said this before because I do go out live during hurricane season when there's something going on around here, and I also start to cover the hurricanes and how it affects us locally or may affect us. So yeah, let's dive into this a little bit. Subscribe, and you'll get notified when I do go out live. I got asked by a few people while I was out walking around about hurricanes and stuff like that, because they had never lived here before, and so they really didn't know what to do. And there's a lot of new people that have moved in. So that's, kind of who this is directed. Also, I'm going to jump into El Niño a little bit. Now, I'm not getting technical at this at all. In fact, if you're subscribed before a hurricane even gets here, I'm already pumping you full of some information, and I keep it at a really low level. I mean, and you'll see in this, we're going to talk a little bit about El Niño and what it could mean to us or not mean to us here in Florida. So first of all, hurricanes and Florida. We are in Central Florida. Hurricanes tend to, just so you know, and I don't dismiss anything because anything can happen with the weather. That's just the way it is. Hurricanes tend to die down or taper off a little bit once they hit land. That's just the way it generally works. And like I said, we're not getting real technical here, and I don't need to hear 5,000 comments about, well, what about this one and what about this one and so on and so on. But in general, they tend not to be too intense here in the villages for people that have not been here. Now, with that in mind, please, people, those of you that are leaving, the snowbirds that are leaving, that type of thing, get those tchotchkes out of your yard. Those, I like them actually, even though they're not supposed to be there by our rules. Some of the nice statues of birds and alligators and dogs and that kind of stuff. One or two in the yard, I'm happy with. Some of them are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, the hurricanes love them, and they pick them up and they throw them through your neighbor's lanais. So there's no real reason to have them out there while you're not here to enjoy them. And if a hurricane's coming or expecting, you can get a lot of winds without a hurricane. Please get them out of your yard when that's about ready to happen, because they turn into projectiles. I'm sure you've all seen the 2x4s put right through a telephone pole or whatever. Just think about what your neighbor's going to feel about you when they find out that there's a giant pink flamingo in his pool that came by way of the lanai screen. Anyway, enough of that. So El Nino, that's what they're talking about, El Nino and super El Nino. We're going to explain that in the simplest terms I can make it. What happens is all the way out in the Pacific, the water starts to heat up. And when it starts to heat up over normal, that starts to get the atmosphere going. And it starts kicking it up around all over the place. And the hot air rises. Now, over the United States is the jet stream. And say 30,000 to maybe topping out around 40,000. It's like this river of air that runs through. And during the summers right now, like when I used to go out storm chasing, that jet stream tends to dip down like this and go down into the lower parts of the United States. As the winter comes along, it tends to kind of scoot across the top like that. Well, what happens is this energy that's out in the Pacific tends to shift that jet stream around. And what it does is it takes, and if you can imagine this storm, this hurricane, and it's alive and it's sitting there like this, and you've seen the planes fly through. Well, what happens is that jet stream is now, during hurricane season, tends to be kind of pushed down further than what it normally would be. And it tends to, as these hurricanes come in from the African coast, across the Atlantic and out towards us, this tropical kind of jet stream that comes down south is now, what it does is it kind of intersects the hurricanes. And what it does is, if you think about it, have you ever seen those games where they knock the arcade game where you knock the guy's head, the whack-a-mole things, right? Well, that's kind of what the jet stream does. It's pushed down south out of typical season, and it kind of knocks and tilts over the hurricane, and it kind of lessens the effect of it. Okay, that's the general idea. Now, it also tends to limit the really big thunderstorms. This is in general. Just remember, we only need one giant hurricane to get through this. But basically, you have this thing working against the giant storms and the giant hurricanes, this type of thing. So with that said, as we move into, and this is all just based on statistics, that type of thing. So we move into a winter, we tend to get a wetter winter. So that's how it's going to kind of affect us in Florida. So that's it. So hurricane season starts here in not too long from now, a few weeks, and it'll go into November. So that's it. Make sure you're subscribed, and I will have more explanations of things when they start up, and I will go out live when I can or when I warrant it. Otherwise, I just won't talk about it. So here we go. On to the next subject. We're going to get into a little bit of a subject. Let me read what Francis wrote to me. Now, before I even read this, I'm going to tell you, I get so many questions that are ridiculous. You know, I just chuck them out, and I don't even put them up there. I told you I read every single question. If you see it out there, I've read it, and I've probably read 20% more because some of them are really stupid. Francis writes, Rusty, any comment on the 80-year-old veteran being attacked? Now I'm like looking at this and it's registering right away. Then she writes, he is a black man living in the villages. Let me say a couple of things. I've lived here for almost 5 years now. All right. One of the most beautiful things about living here is I really don't hear anything about race. Go ahead, start writing all the crazy stuff that you write for all you people that don't live here. Politics, we call this the bubble. Politics, I hear more about politics outside the bubble and from people outside the bubble telling us what we're like inside the bubble. Yes, we have Democrats. Yes, we have Republicans. Yes, we have independents or whatever we have. But I don't go out and play pickleball and discuss politics. I don't go to a bar and discuss politics. The only time that politics has ever come up is in the privacy of my own home. And even then, it doesn't govern my life that much. But let me get into this story here, because I want to tell you what my first impression was. When I read her quote, when I read what Frances wrote, I went, oh, here's somebody trying to say, look, see, it's nothing but a bunch of haters down in the villages. I have no idea why she was writing the question. I don't know whether she's trying to bait me into saying something, but that's just, it's not my nature. I'm not afraid to address it. Anybody wants to unsubscribe, go ahead and do it. But if we don't talk about it, i.e., like Charlie Kirk, if we don't talk about things, then we never learn to understand each other, and we never enlighten ourselves into new things. But anyway, so she wrote that and asked for it. So right away, I started reading the documentation to it as much as I could. I even ordered a file on it, that type of thing. I haven't gotten that yet. But right away, I thought, you know what, this is going to cause a bunch of controversy. Folks, we have 60,000 people, I don't know, something like that living out there. We got how many homes? Man, we got 70, 80,000 golf carts running around the place. This is just like a big city. But the statistics here are absolutely amazing. I went on to AI and drummed up some of these. As far as any crime goes, we right here, compared to the national average, we are 39% below the national average. Any crime in the nation, you're 1 in 31 times to have general crime done to you. Right? In the villages, you're 1 in 336. Violent crime in the villages, 1 in 396. And violent crime outside of the villages, the national average is 100 out of every 263. Hate crimes, the national average is 5%. So I'm going to flash this up here. This is, you know, right away, first thing I saw was Villages News. An 80-year-old black villager is terrified of possible release of an alleged attacker who sucker punched him when he answered his door. First of all, that's not what happened. Get it right, Villages News. If you're going to write the whole line, get it right, because he didn't get sucker punched at his door. He walked through, not that it makes any difference. You don't need to be sucker punched, but he got sucker punched coming out of his garage because he thought he was a maintenance guy coming up to his house, and he had every reason to think he was a maintenance guy, because from what I can understand so far, and this hasn't gone to trial, supposedly this guy and his father had worked on this guy's house, a maintenance thing. So wait till all the facts come out. The point is, what I'm saying is, this is one instance, but let me say something. The person that attacked him doesn't even live in the villages, from what I can find. I read part of the police report, and the address is outside the villages, doesn't even live in the villages. So anyway, those are the statistics that I could find out about crime. This hasn't gone to court. If it does turn out to be true, I find it horrible. I mean, that completely sucks, but also realize that, yes, it happened to somebody in the villages, and any kind of hate crime, black, white, pink, purple, whatever, is bad, right? But this person lives outside the villages that actually committed the crime, and we don't know the whole story. Eventually we will. But anyway, Frances, that's my opinion. Is my first thought right away was, why do I think that this guy that did the attacking doesn't live in the villages? Probably because of the experience that I've told you. It's just not, it's a great place to live. It really is. It's an absolutely great place to live. Anyway, that's my comment. I'm so sorry for that. Just, it breaks my heart to hear that. And any kind of hate crime absolutely breaks my heart. And I wish all the best to this guy. And I hope punishment is due where punishment is due. All right, getting close to winding down. As you notice, I had to actually change. I went out to go play golf right in the middle of shooting the video yesterday, and we got rained out, so we went out to dinner, and it's just the way it happens here in the villages when you're retired. But anyway, this person wrote to me, they just put in a quote, bathroom drains. And as a lot of you know that have listened to the channel for a while, every year I do a maintenance video for your house. And it's like this giant laundry list of all these things you need to kind of pay attention to. Now, some of them are 6 months, but these are, every year I do these. And we're coming up, it's usually in the June, July kind of time frame. And I used to call it filter day for me. And I started this years ago here, and it keeps adding on. So people keep questioning, hey, did you add this in? Did you do this? And every year I updated. It got so large, I actually had to do 2 videos, one for inside the home and one for outside the home. So this person wrote, Adeline, I guess, wrote, bathroom drains, meaning, did you talk about the bathroom drains? So I'm just going to play the one little clip here from that video, and then I'll see you on the other side of this. If you go away for an extended period of time, or you're gone for a little while, and also every once in a while, if you don't use a specific sink, say in a guest room or a shower or anything like that, you may want to flush them every once in a while. And also in these type of drains, I think they call it the rain catcher, where it dips like that. There's a reason for that, and if you keep water in there, that keeps exhaust coming up from the sewer and back up. So every once in a while, just go in and turn on the water and run it a little while, because you want to keep that drain area filled with water where it dips down like that. Okay, let's get out of the washroom. We'll move out into the kitchen. This is kind of a fun one, and I get these every once in a while. And the house that Hammer built wrote, we watched for the blood pressure inflow, which was really helpful. If you didn't watch it, I had just done a video on getting your blood pressure taken and the mistakes that they're making in a doctor's office. It can actually affect how much your blood pressure is off, and may even be putting you on medication that you're not. I'll put the link down below. Really important one for us as we get older to watch. But I wrote, but for me, or he wrote, but for me, the most interesting part of the video was you talking about the U2. I thought it was retired in the 60s. I hope you do a video about your flying experience. Well, I really didn't do, well, let's talk about the U2 really fast. It is supposed to be retired in 2027. Of course, we've heard this a lot about different airframes. I'm pretty sure they've stopped recruiting pilots. If anybody knows bizarrely something different, let me know. But the last major airframe, so it used to be called, back in the 60s when it was born, it was called the U2. And then eventually they did a complete revamp, and I think it's like 40% larger, the airframe, and it's called a TR-1. And then they did an engine revamp in it so it could fly higher and repressurize the cabin, that type of thing. But anyway, so now it's 2027 is when they're supposed to retire it. But I know they'll keep a few flying for NASA for a while, the ER2, I believe they call it. Anyway, that's the history. But what I decided to do was, somebody a long time ago when I had first started this, I started talking about different things that I had done in my past. And the question actually came up because somebody said, I don't understand why you're not married, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And I said, I just led such a bizarre life and a fulfilling life that I kind of forgot that that's what I was supposed to do. And the question came up that somebody wrote and said, hey, we count 10 different things that you had done as far as career stuff in your life. So why don't you tell us what we've missed? And I thought, well, the heck with it. I'll just put a video together. Part of that is my flying career. And so So I just pulled the clip up again. I'm just going to play it as we run this video out. If you want to watch it, you can. So I'll kind of end it here. You can watch this video. Please subscribe and like. I really appreciate it. And your comments, I love reading them. Like I said, I read everyone. So please feel free to comment. And with that, I will just let this part of the video play out. You guys have a wonderful day, and hopefully I'll either see you back on YouTube or I'll see you down in the villages. Stop by and say hello. Have fun watching this. I got to say, this is one of the most different questions I've gotten, although it's not the first time it's been asked, but not quite in this way. And I just felt like I had to answer it, and I figured I'd put it at the end because if you don't want to watch it, I totally get it. But it was really fun for me to do, kind of, because the more I got involved in it, the longer it took, and I probably spent more time on this question than I ever have because. Well, let me read the question for you first. Hang on a second. I had to go back out and get another thing of coffee for this one. My wife and I, Mark, right? My wife and I are regular viewers. Well, let me say thank you very much because seriously, when you do subscribe, I can't tell you how much it helps out, and it takes long to do these. I try to do them so they're interesting, but it really helps if you subscribe. I really appreciate it. Regular viewers, my wife and I, I'm fried after looking up all the information for this. My wife and I are regular viewers, and I have a running list of your occupations over the years. Well, thank you for watching so much that you have that down. We currently have 10. Could you go through your CV to show us what we have missed? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what CV is. Somebody put it down in the notes. I don't know why I'm missing that. I probably should know it. So what I did, I went back and I started from the very beginning, the first time I ever got paid for something. Now, I think there's like 2 things in here I never got paid for, but I had to put them in there because they took so much of my time up, and they were an accomplishment, I think. So I'm going to run through these things. I'm going to run through them as quick as I can and still flash a picture up there. I'm not sure they have any video for them. I can't remember now. But hang on to your shorts, and here we go. I got to figure out some kind of creative way to get this up on screen. Let's get started on this adventure. All right, here we are. I was about 11 years old or so, and I'll tell you that I had my first job was being a paper boy, just like anybody else. And I also started shoveling snow and mowing lawns. So those things I got paid for. And then my first job that I got paid for was actually working for a aquarium that was built as the largest aquarium in the world. And unfortunately, it burnt down. And they rebuilt it, but then they moved back, and I'm not 100% sure what happened to Martin's Aquarium. This was in PA, and that was my first job where I got registered on Social Security, so that was pretty cool. Then I started in the audio sound type thing when I was just after high school. I became a stock boy at Wall to Wall Sound, and then I moved over and sold stereos at Sam Goody's in Plymouth Meeting Mall. And then I went back and sold stereos at Wall to Wall Sound. And just about the time I was figuring, I didn't go to college right away, so I kind of worked at Pep Boys in the auto parts section. And about that time I decided, you know what, I think I'm going to go to college. So in college, my first job to help me get through college was I was a door guy, or I don't think I was big enough to be a bouncer, but I was the guy at the door at Flanagan's Pub. And then I worked as a bartender at the nightclub that just opened up called the Sunny Spot. And then I became a waiter at a place called, right after I graduated, because I didn't have a job yet, so I had to find a way to pay for my apartment, and got a job as a waiter at a place called the Cork and Cleaver. The funny thing was they actually had the menu was just like this, with the menu right on a cleaver. And I'll never forget my first night. Our big thing was that we had fresh vegetables, and then I ended up giving the guy vegetables that were still actually frozen. Then I went into the Air Force and I flew the B-52. And while I was doing that, I had the chance to fly the T-38, and I also flew the T-37 as pilot in command, so I flew both of those. Then I went into the U-2, the spy plane, and this is me at my first operational flight opening up a bottle of champagne. This is actually me, a video of the first day that I actually flew the airplane on a checkout. So you have a 2-week checkout to see whether you can actually fly this airplane before you're accepted into the unit.
Nice one. Over 2-1, Roger. Is that a demo 6-1? That's negative. Over 2-2, Roger. Okay. Not bad for a buff guy, huh?
And this is me being a little bit of a knucklehead, and I got in trouble because my commander saw this picture, and you're not exactly supposed to be blowing bubbles inside the helmet when you're up at altitude like that. And all this time I started to trade in the market. So I guess you could call this a paying job because I actually had to pay taxes on it. And after I got out of the Air Force, the first thing I did was I looked around for a company to buy, and I bought this company that was kind of mom and pop business that manufactured covers that go on hot tubs. Turned that sucker around, got rid of that in about 3 years, and then I decided that I was going to get creative. And just about that time, now I didn't get paid for this, but it was kind of cool. I got called up by a new professional soccer team in Sacramento, indoor team, and they were looking for a goalie, and somebody had told them about me, so I got a tryout with a professional team and ended up breaking my hand. So unfortunately, during the tryout, I didn't get to play. That was kind of cool. Then I decided I want to get really creative and get into the movie business. So to do this, when you don't know anything about it, I started taking acting lessons, and then I became a PA on set. I got to work on the set of Gentle Ben. I got to know the bear pretty good. Bonkers was the actual name of the bear, but that was a lot of fun. And I got a chance to do my first horror flick. Now, when you try to get into the business, you do these really low budget horror flicks. And you can probably find this on the internet somewhere, but this is literally a movie that you run around and you make with a little handheld camera on a budget of about $1,000. So this was my first one. And then I got a job working for Fox Sports Net for a very short period, kind of a short period of time, on a show called 54321 with Wee Man from Jackass and Leanne Tweeden. They were the hosts at the time. And I also I was executive producer and assistant director on a movie with Corbin Burnson. It was called Donna on Demand, which was kind of a revenge love story type thing. And during this time, this one I didn't get paid for either, but it took a lot of work and a lot of accomplishment. I started racing sailboats, and I got into it pretty heavy. And these are a couple of pictures of me racing and my boat. And my last race, I ended up beating a Olympian, so came in first place, and that was kind of cool. I also taught during this time. I taught fly fishing at one of the local colleges, which I did get paid for that, and I started to get into storm chasing and photography. This is really picture is kind of like one of my first times out or whatever. And some of you may know this vehicle right here, but kind of like Twister. And I got hired by a company to be a guide and also to do photography while I was out and kind of help people with their photography. And as you can see, here's a few pictures, but I also did other pictures. I traveled around the country, and it was a great adventure, a lot of fun. Got to take some really cool pictures. But I also opened up a gallery in Pennsylvania, up in Kennett Square, and these are just a couple pictures of the gallery. And then I also did public speaking around the country, so that I got paid for that. And I guess that was I think that's probably, except for selling prints, probably my last job where I actually got some checks. Whew, that took a little bit of work putting that together. I had to go back in, and that was actually kind of fun for me digging back into some old photographs. Sorry about the quality of some of them, but some of them are pretty old. I hope you had your pencil out and counted those. I think it's a little more than 10, but definitely a lot of fun. But I'm happy being here in the villages and relaxing. Still waiting to get back into my photography a little bit. I'll let you know when I do. But anyway, thanks a lot for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you had fun on this trip. And like I always say, I will either see you back here in the villages or I'll see you back on YouTube. Thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.